Welcome back to the Clutch Takes podcast. And with NHL preseason heating up, there's a lot of news to talk about. And the first thing we're going to be talking about is how Neuvirth blows his PTO with the Leafs, as he simply said that he can't play today as an excuse for not playing the game. And I just find that pretty ridiculous because you're trying to make a team, you're not guaranteed the spot, you're fighting with Michael Hutchison, and you just say you can't play. And Babcock said it to the public, so that was pretty much how he was done for.
Yeah, that's kind of ridiculous because like you said, Hutchinson was fighting him for it. Hutchinson's not he's not a bum. He's pretty good as a backup. So I'm pretty sure Neuvirth blew his best chance on a team that could possibly win the cup in the 2020 season. So I don't know, maybe Neuvirth has something going on, but if it's just because he didn't.
Well, Neuvirth's been a really injury-prone goalie his whole career. That's been the problem with him. But he didn't even say that he had an injury. I feel like if he said he was just sore and he couldn't go, then maybe he gets a bye. But he just said, I can't play. I don't want to play. That's what got him in for.
I mean, it's an honor to give Neuvirth a chance, and he just doesn't take it. I mean, that's gonna hurt his career because I don't know if teams will want to sign him after that.
Yeah, I definitely agree. I think Neuvirth, what was his last team that he was on? Philly?
Yeah.
He didn't really play that well in Philly, and he was on the team when they had 7 or 8 goalies and broke the record. And I don't know, I feel like he's still going to be looking for a job after this now. And it sucks because I feel like he has the talent, but he just blew his opportunity.
He was back in his best seasons, he was a good 1A, 1B. So it's obviously he'd be a good backup for the Leafs, which Leafs really need. But I don't know, I mean, I can't just judge by the cover, but by what happened, that he just doesn't want to play. He kind of screwed up for his career.
Yeah. The next thing is kind of getting people up in arms, especially Leafs fans. That Point signed a relatively cheap deal, signing a 3-year bridge deal for 6.75 annual value. And this is credited to the Tampa Bay state tax, as in Tampa Bay, the state tax is 0%. But a thing that people also don't talk about in Toronto is, there's more tax, but they're paying in U.S. dollars. So what Marner's cap hit converted to, it's he's making even more. So I don't know. This Tampa Bay is having a really good system right now.
Yeah, their management honestly is on point with trades, signing, everything. Honestly, I can't see anything that's bad with the management, and this is why they're the most stacked team in the league.
Well, Yzerman started this all.
Yeah.
Now Yzerman is in Detroit. He just randomly left Tampa Bay. I thought he would try to finish it by winning a cup, but I guess he just wanted to go back to Detroit to, go back where it all started and win a cup there.
Well, Braden Point signing 3 years at a relatively cheap deal also gives them a chance to bring other players in so they can keep being stacked for maybe 3 more years, and also gives them room to sign other players they need to sign.
Well, Tampa Bay is they seem like the destination for if a player gets bought out, or a free agent that is kind of ring chasing in a sense. Tampa Bay is prone to sign them now because Shattenkirk, he went to Tampa Bay, and
they're basically a Golden State of the NHL.
Yeah, in a sense.
Moving on, so we know that Tampa Bay is going to be stacked for 3 more years. Faulk got traded to St. Louis for Edmondson and Bach, and then Faulk signs a 7-year deal for $6.4 million annual fee.
Yeah, this was a trade that everyone knew was coming. It didn't surprise anyone. It's just the surprising factor is the team, as I never heard St. Louis as one of the options for being traded to, but St. Louis obviously is trying to run it back, and adding a weapon like Faulk to improve their power play is really good because I'm pretty sure they didn't have that good of a power play last year. That was one of their only holes. And like Faulk is a big shot, so that definitely improves it. And also for their right side, everyone knows that they have Parayko and Pietrangelo on the right side, which is very elite. But Pietrangelo only has 1 year left. And with Faulk signing a 7-year deal, I feel like this is like insurance that if Pietrangelo is to leave.
Yeah, I mean, obviously it's like not Pietrangelo is Pietrangelo is like honestly like way better than Faulk, but I mean, I guess it is kind of assurance that you don't get nothing for your defense.
Well, where do you think Pietrangelo? Because that's 3 top 4 defensemen on the right side. Like this is kind of like the same problem Carolina had. They didn't want Faulk just sitting on their third pairing, so they traded him. But now St. Louis has 3 elite right-handed defensemen.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's like when it's 5-on-5, they can have him on the third line because he's not really good on defense. But like, power play, he's gonna be like having a lot of minutes on the power play, and I think it's kind of move around that way.
Yeah, I definitely agree with that. And with Carolina, I feel like they're a really good trading team, and they got back Edmondson, who was a decent part of their playoff run, who's a left-handed D, and he's only 26 also. And they also got, I think his first name is Daniel Bach, and he was a former first-round pick, and he's a player that has decent potential. So this is another young forward that Carolina adds to their group, as I feel like this was definitely a good trade for them overall. As Faulk has only 1 year left on his deal, and they traded him, and they got assets.
I think, yeah, both teams kind of, like, they won both ways, but I think Faulk got paid a little too much, like $6.4 million, and, like, he's not, like, I don't know, he's not really good on defensive end, but, I mean, I don't know, whatever. I guess, like, he's going to get paid what he's going to get paid.
Yeah, I think that Justin Faulk is definitely a good defenseman to have. Obviously, you don't want him to be your top pairing defenseman. And with Parayko being there and Pietrangelo being there, obviously he slides in as the number 3. Who would you say? Or would you say someone would be ahead of him also, or no?
Sorry, what?
Where would you rank Justin Faulk on their defense?
Well, Pietrangelo and Parayko is definitely better. I'd say, like, you'd be fighting for third, but he'd be on the third line, like I said. He's kind of like, the reason why his contract kind of, like, is not that as good as it should be is because, a player comparison you can have is Jake Gardiner, and Jake Gardiner got, like, $4.2 million in Carolina, or no. Yeah, in Carolina, sorry.
He got 4.05. He didn't really get a raise at all.
Yeah, and those two players are kind of comparable, and I don't understand why.
Well, Gardner's more of a playmaker. Justin Faulk's more of a shot.
Yeah.
But defensively, Gardner's better, though.
Yeah, well.
So that makes it like a little worse.
Yeah.
Well, Gardner gets a little bit like he's like high risk, high reward. Like he can make a lot of good plays and a lot of bad plays, and the plays they makes bad are amplified at the worst moments, as he's had a bad Game 7 track record.
But I remember that 1 year he was on the Leafs, he scored a lot of overtime winners, which is like pretty good.
Yeah, and he's a defenseman that when he gets the minutes, he can get 50 points a season. So,
yeah, like I don't agree. Like if you're gonna pay a defenseman on your bottom pairing $6.4 million, that's kind of like too much. Like the most you can be paying on your bottom pairing defenseman, max would be like 3.5.
Well, it's either they're moving him to the left side or they know that Pietrangelo could leave because they're not obviously going to be riding all 3 of those guys on the right side.
Yeah.
And just to speak on Carolina for 1 second, I just like love what they're doing, and Sebastian Aho's contract is looking really good right now as Montreal gave them a nice little help there. And Carolina, they're just like, now they add Bach to their forward group, and they have another prospect, Nikas. Warren Fogle stepped up last year, and
Their goalie prospect.
Teravainen's young. Nino Niederreiter had a bounce back season.
And their goalie prospect everyone's talking about.
Yeah, and Svechnikov. Like, this team is really good and young, and Sebastian Aho is their biggest cap hit, and he's only like 8.45, which is amazing.
And he's only like, what, 21, 22?
Yeah. I don't know. I feel like Sebastian Aho, a lot of people are saying he was the one that misread the market, as like he signed way before everyone else, and I think he even said that there was pressure on him, which I don't understand. Like, you just have a bad agent. And these players that held out for better deals, and we don't know what Kachuk or Rantanen or Laine or Connor are going to get, but
well, he did sign for 5 years, and if you compare him to like the other RFAs like Matthews and Marner, it's like Matthews and Marner, they can push around Dubas. I don't want to talk about the Leafs a lot, but I mean, they can push around Dubas, but it's like Aho's contract seems pretty fair since he's only having 5 years.
Yeah, I really like Aho's contract, and I think Carolina, if they get good goaltending, I think they're a sneaky team that could win the division this year for the Metro. The Metro is wide open this year.
Oh, yeah.
What do you feel about their chances for the Metro?
I'd see the chances pretty high, but I mean, like I said, we both agree goaltending goes a long way, and we don't know if Mrazek can handle a whole year, like the starting role. He was kind of like, not playing the full starting role since, there's other goalies in that mix with Darling. Darling got cut out, and then there was Mikuleni, who's actually playing really good last year. So if Mrazek plays really well, then no doubt Carolina could win the division. But I see teams more like Philadelphia or...
Well, the score predicted for their division winner for the Metro, most people still said Washington, and some people said Carolina, and like one person said Philly. Like, none of them said Pittsburgh. And that division is, like, to me, the most like wide open. Like, I can't really tell. Like, Philly's good, Carolina's good, Pittsburgh's good, Washington's good.
What
Islanders, like...
This is not what that daily topic we were talking about, but the thing I want to bring up is I noticed from, like, analysts for hockey, like, the Score or Sportsnet, when they do predictions, it's never, like, bold, ever. It seems like. So, it's like they look who's stacked. Like, if we're going to skip to the Scores Cup predictions, it was pretty... The most two teams that came out was Tampa versus Nashville for the Cup. Oh, yeah. That's pretty much what last year was, too. And it's like, can people, like, they're supposed to be professionals and they can't, like, think for themselves. It's kind of like, I don't know.
Yeah, none of them were taking, like, a leap of faith and, like, saying, like, either what they think, because they don't want to get, like, roasted by the industry. They just say the pick that's the most basic, then they can't get roasted, because if everyone's wrong, then they're wrong with everyone.
Yeah, like when I saw like the predictions for the Atlantic, who's gonna win the Atlantic division, it's like Tampa. Like, everyone said Tampa. I don't think not a single person said
Toronto, Boston,
or Florida. And it's kind of like, I understand. Like, I think Tampa's gonna win it too, but it's like the other three teams are like no schmucks. Like, they're honestly really good. Like, and this is why I want the playoff format to change, because it's like the four best teams in the Atlantic are like the top, like they were all in like the top 10 in the league.
Yeah, and people for the predictions also, when they're like so stale and boring picks, like, I don't think, we've said this a million times, like the NHL has so much parity, and it's like never what you just think it is at face value. So you have to like really think about it, and sometimes you can't get it perfect, obviously, with the NHL, because it's so unique and parody and different. But like, I don't know, step out on the limb and make your own pick.
Yeah, NHL is like the one league that you can make bold predictions and you wouldn't be roasted for it. The analysts are acting like it's like the NBA. like last year, everyone picked Bucks and Golden State, and that would be like a fair pick because like NBA's not, it does not have any parity almost. But like NHL's, like that's where everyone gets to, you know, actually think, and then that's where you show your skills and as an analyst. But it's kind of like, I don't know. I feel like it's kind of like coward.
Yeah. Well, I would want to hear like their reasoning rather than just like an article. Like Tampa stacked. It's like, yeah, we know, but they folded in like 4 to Columbus. Are you gonna talk about that? Like anything can happen. Like this year in the NHL playoffs, it was all the top 4 seeds got taken out.
Yeah.
All like the top 2 seeds, especially like all the division winners, wasn't it? Like Tampa won the division, they lost in the first round. Calgary won the division, they lost in the first round. Washington won the division, they lost in the first round.
Pretty much all the division winners, I think, lost in the first round.
Yeah, and especially when Tampa Bay lost in 4, I feel like it was open season and everyone was just like, anyone could win the cup. I feel like everyone said that.
Yeah, and I saw one person said that the Avalanche would be in the finals next year, and I just don't get like, I mean, I think that Colorado has a really good future and honestly would be like a dynasty soon, or dynasty-like team, and but I don't get like the whole hype around like Grubauer. Everything about Colorado, it's like all like speculation because Makar hasn't even played in the NHL a full year, and Grubauer hasn't had a starting role.
Yeah, Grubauer was like first Varlamov was the starter, so Grubauer is getting all the easy games. So then he gets the wins and the saves, get his confidence up, and then he takes over from Varlamov and has a good playoff showing. And now he's like supposed to be some god in the net. It's like, can we get a full season from him before we like pronounce Grubauer a elite starting goalie?
Yeah, I mean, don't want to ramble on, but I mean, it feels like it's kind of a trend. Like the goalie gets confident from being the backup, the starter goes down, and then they go on a hot streak. It's kind of like Kincaid like a year or 2 ago, and then went on a win streak to go to the playoffs with the Devils. And it's like now it's like Kincaid had a really bad year last year, and now he's a backup for Montreal.
Well, everyone hides the fact when either it's a 1A, 1B, when a backup is too good to be a backup, so then they get traded to a different team and they become a starter. Like Grubauer, how he got traded out of Washington because he's playing good behind Holtby, and now everyone's saying, like the thing with all backups, like, oh, he just needed a bigger chance and now he's good. Same with Talbot when he was behind Lundqvist. He goes to Edmonton, has a good season, and everyone's screaming Talbot, and now he's on like, now he's on Calgary and he's like the backup again. Like he's back to reality after one good season.
Like there's so many examples like Bernier, there's Talbot. I don't want to say Jones because he was really good years before, but he had a really bad year last year. So if he keeps that up, he'd be another example.
Yeah, there's a lot of examples. Oh, Darling too.
Yeah, him too.
Darling was playing good in Chicago, and then he got a bigger role in Carolina, and he stunk the place out. So I think people need to like pump the brakes when the goalie is playing good behind a starter, because you have to realize they're getting all the easy games. They're getting like the games when teams are tired. They're getting the teams that are against the lower seed teams, and I don't know. I feel like you can't buy into it until like they show you for a full season. Like even for Binnington, like everyone pumped the brakes on Binnington until he like does it again this year. He played like 30 games in the season, had a good playoffs, and everyone's putting him in their top 10.
Even though people like to forget he had one of the lowest shots against because of St. Louis's defense.
Yeah, that's definitely true.
Also, I kind of like, this is another thing, I kind of don't like how the format for the Vezina was last year. I don't like how, Leonard had a really good season, but he was in 1A, 1B. I don't believe 1A, 1B should be in the running for the Vezina ever.
Well, me and Evan were just talking about this. We think that starters should play less games than they did before if you want to go deep in the playoffs. But you should at least be still playing 55 games, to qualify as like a number one starter.
Yeah, even like Ben Bishop, like I don't understand how. I mean, he played really good, but he didn't play enough games. Like Vasilevsky was like the obvious choice out of the three because he had the best stats and he had played the most games. So I just think that game should take into account because more games a goalie plays, their stats will be deflated even more.
Well, yeah, if you can do it over a longer time and have like a 930 save percentage like Vasilevsky did, like almost 60 games and still have that good of a save percentage, like that means you were so good for a long period of time. It's like you definitely deserve it.
Well, who's a goalie like last year you think got snubbed out of the race?
Some goalies I think that definitely got snubbed down the race. I would say like just how maybe look Anderson was definitely in it until the end because he got burnt out because of how many games he did play.
Mm-hmm.
But like a goalie that like played really well would be Carey Price too because he almost like brought them into the playoffs and was playing elite down the stretch.
Well, what about Fleury? Did he play enough games?
Fleury played enough games, yeah, and he had a lot of shutouts too, but his save percentage was surprisingly low. Like it was around like 9-10 because I don't know why he would have some bad games when he let in 4 goals for like 3 games in a row, and that kind of ruined it. But Vegas was a good team too, but I wouldn't put him as one of the top 3 candidates.
Oh, another candidate I think should have actually been considered was Murray because he played a lot of games. Even though he got hurt, he still played a decent amount of games. And Pittsburgh was in the playoffs, and he had like a 920 save percentage. And he played really well near the end, too.
Yeah, I was listening to the Fan 590, and they're going on a tangent about how basically in the last 6 years, if you look at it, teams that go to the finals have a starter that plays less games or like 50 to 55 games, not 60. And they're saying like, back in the day, like Grant Fuhr, he would play like 79 games and like, would win the cup with the Oilers. And like, that's insane. And like, that's almost a full season. Like, I don't get how he didn't die. Especially like when there's less padding, less equipment, easily get hurt, probably get more sore. I mean, like those players are just warriors back then. But examples of this is like this year, Binnington played 30 games in the season and he wins the cup. And Fleury, when he won the cup, when they went to the finals with Vegas, like he played like half a season. And Rask went to the finals this year. He played like half a season.
Oh yeah, yeah. Murray won 2 cups with Fleury having the other starting role, 1A 1B, and then it's so on. You can name down a list, but
I feel like it's gonna make like. We just said you need to play a lot of games to win the Vezina because that makes you deserve it more. But at the same time, like goalies' workload is getting less, so I feel like we're gonna see more and more goalies have less games, which is kind of annoying because when you see a game, you want to see your starter in more of the time. But I guess this is just the trend that the NHL is going with sports science and everything like that. I don't like it necessarily, but it seems to be the trend.
Yeah. Moving on, the Habs are looking to trade a forward, as they said in the beginning of the offseason. I guess they're still looking for it since the preseason has opened up. It's been getting rumored that Habs want to look to trade.
Yeah, and I think that they're doing this because some prospects on the preseason have impressed. Paling and Suzuki have looked really good. People say they're good enough to make the team, and I agree with that. And also Cale Fleury on defense has looked good, and he looks like he can be making the team and give them a little bit more speed and puck moving back there. So with Montreal having a lot of forwards, like they need to make room so they're not just shoved on the 4th line and don't have any success. So who could you say could be a forward that Montreal could trade to make room for these young guys?
It'd be sad to see him go, but I think Paul Byron most likely. He just seems like the black sheep because there's so many young players coming through. Like Suzuki is rumored to play in the first line with Domi. Paling's hurt, but he's definitely going to make the team because everyone's saying how good he is. And there's Kotkaniemi. There's just too many forwards, and Byron is like 30, 31 now. And yeah, he's a good player. He can get he's really fast. He can get 20 goals and 40 points. But I mean, if you can trade him, it'd be good to make room for the younger players, and you can get some cap. He's making $3 million.
Yeah, I think so. It's a reasonable contract. I mean, they already traded Shaw for picks. Would you trade Byron just for picks, or would you try to trade him for an area in need?
Maybe I would trade him for maybe another defenseman. Because they already have a good backup for Price. They have Kincaid, and yeah, I don't know. The Honka rumors came up, but I don't know if that's gonna come true anymore. But
that would be cool.
Yeah,
Byron for Honka.
Yeah,
because Honka is I think he was a former first round pick in height, but he hasn't lived up to it at all. So Montreal gets rid of their forward. Dallas needs some more offense. Montreal can use some D. I could definitely see that as a fit. I wasn't even thinking about that.
Also, Dallas needs speed because they're all oldies.
Yeah, Dallas was so slow last year because Jamie Benn is not a fast skater. Radulov's not necessarily fast, even though he's good. Yeah, they lack speed. Tyler Seguin, probably the only fast guy on that team. Pavelski's not really fast either, and they added him.
No, he's not fast.
He's good at deflections, but...
Yeah, I mean... it basically means that players are moving up. That means, the Habs prospects are coming out, coming to plan, and they're playing good in the preseason, so it looks like Habs could be, an exciting team next year, like people thought, and could be a fast rebuild, but, with the Atlantic, it's really hard to make the playoffs if you're in the Atlantic, because it's I think it's probably the most stacked division in the league right now.
Well, the owner's saying they want to be really good in the next 3 to 7 years. All of a sudden the Habs are a really young team, and they have a lot of room to grow and a lot of room for potential, and trying to get Aho, even though I didn't like the offer sheet because it was really weak. They're trying to add to this young core to have a long winning window as long as possible. And they're doing it. They don't have a star necessarily yet, like the Leafs. Like a really good player, but...
Well, their best forward last year was Domi. I mean, maybe he can, increase. He can,
Take the next step.
And, well, he got 70 points and 25 goals or something like that last year. And
he's a star in the OHL.
Yeah, and he couldn't take the next step, maybe get 80 points and 30 goals. That would be kind of pushing it, but we can to see players like that, or Suzuki come into the league and rip it up.
I think Suzuki and Paling, by the looks of them, I think they can both be top 6 forwards, honestly.
Yeah, but
I like the look of them. But I think Paling is a really good team player, and he's humble, and Suzuki's more of the flash, and Paling's more of the seems like he just gets it done.
Do you think Kotkaniemi, if he doesn't have a relatively good year this year, do you think you would call him a bust?
I mean, that draft wasn't really that good. That was a pretty weak draft, honestly. That was when... Who went first overall in that draft again?
Oh, that was Hischier. No. That wasn't Hischier. Oh, it was Dahlin.
Oh, yeah, Dahlin. Yeah, that draft, that was one of the weaker drafts in recent memory, in my opinion. The players...
Not as bad as 2017, though.
Mm-hmm. Well, I mean, Kachuk has good potential. I like him. And Dahlin is going to be really good.
Svechnikov.
Yeah. But there's no, generational talent or anything like that. Just good players.
Well, everyone was saying Dahlin's going to be the next Lindstrom / Erik Karlsson, but, I mean, I don't know. That's kind of... Everyone always tries to hype up the first overall pick, so...
Yeah, I don't see that, honestly. I think Dahlin will be really good, don't get me wrong, but defensemen take a long time to develop too. So I feel before we see the real Dahlin, it'll take into at least his 3rd season. Moving on to the NBA, doctors say that Klay Thompson's injury, how he hurt he tore his ACL in the playoffs, how that injury usually keeps a player or a person out for 2 solid years until they're totally back to normal. And to me, this was a little bit shocking, but not really. I think Klay Thompson will be back before 2 years because they need him, and they just signed him to a deal, and they just signed him to a 5-year max deal. So if he's out 2 years, it's like he just made like 80 mil for sitting down. And Golden State with Curry and D'Lo and their team, they're still going to be like a playoff team, so they're going to want Klay to be there for them. And he won't be 100%, which would be risk for an injury, but what do you feel about this news?
Well, this confirms that D'Lo is not being traded. And I feel like Golden State is not going to be as good anymore. Like, people don't have to worry.
It's finally over.
Yeah. Well, Clippers, Lakers, Houston, all those teams are going to be like better than there's actually going to be a lot of teams that's better than Golden State. I think they'll be a playoff team, but they won't be I think they'll be like a first, second round exit for the next 2 years now.
Yeah. I wanted Golden State not to win championships anymore, but I never like to see it through injuries, as I'm not the type of guy to root for injuries. I want to see the best. I want to see the best players play, and Klay Thompson is one of the best shooters next to Steph Curry, and them together is such a dynamic duo. And when they're both on the same team, it doesn't make it unfair. It just makes them like a duo, and there's been a lot of duos in the league now. Now there's like Harden and Westbrook, LeBron and AD, Kawhi and Paul George, just to name a few from the West. So having Curry and Klay as a duo would be pretty cool to watch still. So that's when they weren't annoying.
Yeah, well, Klay, I think he's going to come back he's going to come back before 2 years ends, but that, I already said, the West is really tough. So I think the only way they get past the second round is if Curry honestly goes insane and he drops 10 threes a game in the playoffs, and he just goes insane. Which I could see. Curry's done that, but I don't know. It's kind of hard to do when there's, like you said, LeBron and the duos and all that.
Just statistical wise, I don't think he'll have how James Harden, his usage rate made him average 36 points per game, and to me he should have won it over Giannis. Don't at me. But I feel like Curry will go back to his MVP form now that he has to, and I feel like he'll average 30 points per game. And I don't know if he'll have a high enough seed to win the MVP, but he'll definitely be one of the candidates this year.
If Klay Thompson was not injured, or when he comes back, now that KD's out of the picture, do you think, how Klay Thompson, he averaged, even though it was he didn't, KD and Curry got most of the shots, do you think with KD out, do you think Klay can average more than 20 points? How many points do you think?
Oh yeah, for sure. Also, he hasn't really had a role besides just shooting the three. He plays almost like a really good role player, which is crazy. When the play that he got hurt on was a play where he wasn't just catching and shooting, was a play where he went for a dunk and he just landed awkwardly and hurt himself. So he's definitely going to be hesitant to do those plays, but I think he can definitely carry the ball up the court. I think he's capable.
Moving on to Lamelo Ball is impressing. How good do you think he can be?
I think Lamelo Ball, I just think of him as a kid for the series that he had for Ball in the Family. And, you see him kind of be immature there and not really thinking about the NBA and playing video games and stuff like that. But I don't know. I feel like Lamelo Ball is definitely maturing. His body definitely is. He's way taller, and he looks like he's getting bigger. And I think it's good that he's playing in the Australian league, not the Lithuanian league, as another 5-star recruit. I think Hampton, whatever his name is, he's playing there too. And I think he'll just let him get away from the noise and just do his thing. And people are saying he could go first overall.
Yeah, I can see him going first overall. I can see him. I mean, he'd be an okay player in the NBA. I feel like that he would just be an Andrew Wiggins, because not like Andrew Wiggins, not a huge bust. I mean, I guess a bust for what he was supposed to be, but he's not a bad player because he still averages like 20 points. I think Lamelo Ball could be like a scorer, kind of like Andrew Wiggins. He can score, but like he doesn't have the work ethic. Like he said, he's not mature. But maybe he could mature. But like from what I saw, I don't know. He could be like an Andrew Wiggins.
I think he has a little bit more potential than that just because he's a really good passer. I don't think he's not just a scorer, and he has really good hops. But the game when the game when he dropped like 90 points and went viral, it was kind of like he was just cherry picking, so a lot of those were layups. So I don't really count that as like amazing because he's cherry picking. But I mean, a lot of people say that LaMelo Ball is like the best ball of the family. And I can see that because Lonzo has had a lot of pressure and a lot of injuries. And if LaMelo stays healthy, and LiAngelo hasn't even been in the NBA, so we can't really talk about him. LaMelo definitely has the chance to be the best, even though he's the youngest.
Well, I could see LaMelo being a better scorer than Lonzo, but I feel like Lonzo would be a better all-around.
Got the clamps.
Yeah, well, he's not a better all-around player, I feel it.
Yeah. Well, I feel like LaMelo is more flashy. He can definitely be more of a scorer. And he seems like he has his shot figured out more, even though it's not really as clean looking also. It's not as bad as when Lonzo first came, but they all have kind of weird and ugly shots. But, I mean, at the end of the day, as long as it goes in, we shouldn't be chirping it. I mean, like Ray Allen had a weird shot, and he was an elite shooter. And next, the Bucks, with Giannis being a free agent in 2021. The Bucks owner came out and said that they gave him the Supermax, and so he got fined $50,000 for that. And people are already starting up the Giannis to another team's rumors, and people are saying if the Bucks don't do well this year, that he's seriously considering leaving. And one team that was rumored was Golden State. And Golden State has had a track record now of getting star players, Kevin Durant, Boogie, and others, and now D'Lo. So it wouldn't, like, nothing shocks me now with the Warriors, but this would just be insane. Like, come on. Antetekounmpo's had such a good rep, and this would make people hate him.
Well, Giannis wants to be the best player. He even said he doesn't like, super teams. I don't know. Maybe this could be just a fake news. And Giannis is just like, well, he's really good. Like, he has the potential to be the best player in the league, like everyone says. And if he goes to the Warriors, even after the flack that KD got when he was there, like, it would be worse. Like, people would honestly hate him. So I don't know why he would go there. And plus, he's way younger than Curry. Curry's going to be like, when he gets to his prime, Curry's going to be like almost like in his mid-30s. So I don't know why it makes sense. I mean, it's like an easier ring, but it's like, why would he do that after the comments he said about super teams? He'd be just a hypocrite. And I think Giannis would be, if he were to leave, I feel like he would be like, just go to a team that like has a system built for a super team already. Not super team, but like a system that's good enough that just needs a superstar. Like, you could say like a team like Indiana, who has a really good team, but they just need that one big player. Like, they have Oladipo, Brogdon. Or you could say the Raptors, they have a team, but they just don't have that number one guy. And, there's connections with Masai. Or a third option would be like, I don't know, Utah Jazz or something like that, because they have Mitchell and Conley.
Honestly, basketball-wise, I think that this duo would be the best duo in the NBA, like, in a long time. Because Giannis, we can say, is the most dominant player in the paint in the NBA right now. And Curry is the best player outside of the three-point line. So you have, like, the best of both worlds, and you can see Curry throwing up dunks to Giannis, and Curry and Giannis are both unselfish players as they can both pass the ball. And not saying he's better than Durant, but I think this would be a better fit than Durant. So I really understand it from a basketball sense, but I feel like Giannis, especially if he improves his three-point shot, can lead his own team. And legacy-wise, I don't think he wants to tamper it like Durant did.
Well, he did get locked up in Toronto. He did get locked up by Brazil, was it, in the World Cup. So maybe he can have a reality hit. Maybe he can't get a jump shot like everyone says he's going to develop. Maybe he thinks that he's not going to be good enough to be like a LeBron, to carry his own team. So if he thinks, oh, I can't get a jump shot, I need someone, the best, shooter in the league, Curry. But that would make sense, like if he's thinking that way, but it would tamper his legacy for sure.
Yeah, I think Giannis, he has to consider all options. I think he might, he'll become a free agent in 2021. And the Bucks are a team that, besides Giannis, I don't really like their surrounding. They lost Malcolm Brogdon and who was it that left also to a different league?
Oh, Mirotic.
Mirotic left to a different league. And, I mean, I don't know. I don't like their team as much as most people, like Bledsoe and Middleton as their main two guys. I don't think it's enough. I like Philly's team better.
Yeah, I can agree with that. And I could see if they don't make a trade for another star player, like I could see like a player that they would need to trade for to keep Giannis and be like the best team in the East would probably be like Bradley Beal.
Yeah, I was thinking the same thing.
And well, because they're two other best players, they don't really have a young stud coming out of their rankings right now, because Brogdon was supposed to be that guy who develops into the second best player on that team, be like the second star, but he left. And I don't know why if I was the Bucks, I would have honestly I would have taken Brogdon over Middleton. I don't know why they did that. Middleton is what he is. He's going to be like a fringe all-star. He might make the all-star game if there's injuries. He's not going to make he's not a perennial all-star, and Bledsoe has never been an all-star. So if they don't make a trade, Giannis is probably out.
Yeah, I don't like the decision they made either. And Mirotic is also a big loss, even though he was just a rental. And to get a player like Bradley Beal, I would just assume a lot of first-round picks would have to be involved. Bledsoe just to even out cap. Maybe a player like Dante DiVincenzo, who's a first-round draft pick. That could be a starter point that could entice the Wizards. And lastly, just to talk about KD. KD might come back, but will it be worth it? How good do the Nets be for him to force his hand? Does Kyrie carry them to a top 4 seed and put them in position to make a run? Because if they come in 6th place, I don't think it's worth Durant to risk that. I don't know. Do you think how good did the Nets finish this year?
I can definitely see them finishing in the top 4 seed because, there's the Bucks, 76ers, and I think the third probably be Raptors. They're still a pretty good team.
Indiana might be in there.
And then I'd say fighting for a fourth would be Indiana, Celtics, and Nets. And I think the Nets are the best out of those three because Oladipo's not even back yet.
Yeah. Oladipo is also a question mark. What if he has a Gordon Hayward season where he's not the same player? I don't think he will, but I don't think he'll be back to usual Victor Oladipo. I hope he is because he's actually one of my favorite players to watch. But Kyrie is the best player out of those 3 teams. He's better than Kemba, and he's better than Oladipo.
And he's not with an overhyped roster like the Celtics, so he won't have young players trying to tear him down like the Celtics did. So if KD comes back,
Brooklyn's team is really good still too. They just locked up LeVert, still have Dinwiddie, they still have Jared Allen and DeAndre Jordan as their center power forward duo.
Harris as their shooter.
Yeah, and Karooks and the list goes on. They're still a deep team. And I just, like, Kevin Durant is just the icing on top. And I think they'll get in a position for KD to come back. And I want to see KD back in the playoffs healthy because he's one of the best players, if not the best.
If KD comes back normal and he finds chemistry with the team very easily, then the Nets is, I feel like,
They're my final pick.
Yeah, they're definitely going to the finals or at least the conference finals because they're, like, all around, their team is more deep than the Bucks and the 76ers. They're better shooters around and defenders than the Bucks, and maybe not the 76ers defensively, but shooting, no doubt, because 76ers don't have any shooters. Maybe Harris if he bounces back.
Do you think if KD comes back, even if it's just for the playoff run, do you think, and he goes and leads them to the finals and maybe even a championship, does he erase, like, the comments of him being, like, a weak player and change his narrative of his legacy?
No doubt if he comes back and has a really good playoff run.
How far does he have to go?
Well, he's already been to the finals without Golden State, so I feel like if he wins the championship, no doubt he erases it. But finals would be everyone would be questioning it. And
I think if he made the finals, it's already a win because you're coming off an Achilles.
Mm-hmm.
Like, you're probably, like, 2021 would be a better chance for him to show his. I think if he wins one in his tenure with Brooklyn, that'll be a success, you know?
Mm-hmm.
Or at least is, like, competitive, like, going to the finals.
Yeah, well, if he goes to the finals, he'll probably meet up against the Lakers, Clippers. And I feel like it's going to be a really exciting finals if it's, like, the Nets versus Lakers or Clippers. So
yeah, I can't wait to see that. Anyway, this podcast is going pretty long, so we're just going to wrap that up. And hope you guys enjoyed it. And there's more videos coming on the way.
Dessert!